Greetings and salutations, you absolutely beautiful individuals. This right here is League Unlock here. And Mark here with you guys as we get back into World Championship action, either elimination or advancement on the line in every single match from henceforth. And the pride of North America, Flyquest, Fly or Fly Home, lots of memes to be had with them. But in the biggest mismatch of the next round, maybe aside from PSG, BLG, the boys from NA put on a show, Mark. At the very least, it's not a 2-0 stomp. We get competitive, compelling, exciting games across the series.
Exciting games across the series. Unfortunate at the end, Flyquest not able to get it done. They falter in that game 3. We'll discuss that one and dissect it, but you got to start at the very beginning in this first game because game 1 could have been it for Flyquest. It is a doozy of a game going through Hanwha Life, getting all these early advantages, but the scaling definitely in the favor of Flyquest, and they get to that point where that scaling is starting to matter. And it just crumbles in an unfortunate team fight.
Yeah, this is maybe the most painful game of the series for Flyquest. As you mentioned, they fall behind early, and you're just ready for this series to be over in sub 60 minutes. They get rolled over by Hanwha Life. You got Busio whiffing Renata ultis that I feel like in the top lane. That actually completely changes this game if he lands even a semi-decent ulti on one of them. I feel like Masu can turn that play around then, but anyways, we keep going, and the turning point is this Baron fight that Flyquest are decisive, all on the same page, flash it into the pit to kill 4 members, and this play alone kind of set the precedent for the rest of this series.
And I think it was a big part, the communication and clearly the understanding of the composition of these champions and how and what their goals need to be in a moment like this. That was executed upon perfectly by Flyquest in that situation, really set themselves back into that game. I mean, it's a really unfortunate point that Busio ult in that top side really could have changed things because that hill to climb was so big for Flyquest that even if you pulled off that miraculous moment later, which they did, you still had room to go. You still had more distance to cover until you were at that point where you're maybe setting the pace, you're setting the tone of what is happening in this matchup. Didn't happen from that point still, even with this type of pushback, this type of making it troublesome from Flyquest to Hanwha Life.
Yeah, and the reality is when you get set so far behind early, you basically have to play perfectly at that point, and the other team has to make some mistakes. And yeah, Hanwha did make some mistakes to get Flyquest back into this game, and the scoreline doesn't do it justice, but still, the pressure that Zeka on Yone gets in this game, I just can't believe. A few days off, you're going into a best-of series, the most broken champion in the tournament, in the hands of maybe the best guy on that champion in the tournament, and you let him get it in game 1. It's mind-boggling.
I feel like the idea was that, we have something to counter. We have some way to make this a difficult game or matchup early phase, whatever it was with the Cassiopeia coming through. Maybe you're getting a Mumu coming in for an early gank or something like that, but it never came through. And to even, test that, to be willing to risk that type of chance up against what it is in that comfort and utility for Yone with Zeka, I wouldn't have taken that chance. I wouldn't have taken that shot. I think a lot of us have said, you're just better off getting that out of there.
So they almost climb up the mountain only to get booted back down at the summit by Hanwha to lose game 1. Game 2 is when we start cooking. Yes, we had the Urgot in game 1 for Bwipo. That's a pocket pick we're often seeing. The Nunu that slides in for Flyquest. They've been alluding to maybe having some spicy picks to throw out. This time it is the Nunu. And honestly, early on, it wasn't great. The Zyra was having much more proactive early game impact than the Nunu, which should not happen. And Bwipo starts 0-3, and even on the cast multiple times, they're saying he's irrelevant. He will not be a part of this game. Fast forward 15 minutes later, he's got a 1.5k gold lead? Huh?
Just things that Olaf could do. This champion, whatever type of hole he's in, he ain't out of it. You better believe that one. And Flyquest, they weren't out of it. even despite another early game hole that they had dug for themselves with the proactive plays from Hanwha Life. That Nunu pick, the interesting part of it, of course, is that, yes, Flyquest, we know Bwipo is going to have, a bit more of an expanded champion pool, stuff you're not necessarily as familiar with. The Nunu really does feel like it is completely out of left field, out of the whack, not even on anybody's type of radar type of thing. And it comes through, and you see that unfamiliarity, that that question mark that comes up on, I don't know exactly what this champion's limits are, where he's good, where he's bad, all these.
That cancels my TP, huh?
Prime example right there, getting the TP cancel. Yes, right in his face. I can't believe that was another one where it's, again, I don't care how much or how little you know about Nunu. You got to know you can't do that in front of someone's face at that point. Gets the TP cancel, and this Nunu was a problem for Hanwha Life as we moved into that mid to late game.
And like the case in point, Inspired played the pick well, but really it was the confidence and aggression that Flyquest was playing with in this second game that we're not accustomed to seeing in this LCS versus LCK matchup. It's such a rarity that it happens. It was an absolute treat to do it, and I mean, still, Flyquest really had to work for this second game, despite being in, varying levels of deficits the whole game. Hanwha Life's team fighting and Viper on Ezreal, who did 41% of the team's damage, by the way. Multiple team fights. You were clenching, worrying that this Ezreal was going to clean up the game.
I think that should be an indication to a lot of people just how difficult, just an achievement it is to get these type of wins, to get this type of pushback against the LCK champion in Hanwha Life, and what they're able to bring out and what they're able to pull through and be that resistance. Resistance in this game was pretty much all the way down to Viper and what he was able to do on that Ezreal and making it difficult, getting out of some of these incredible fights and engages from Flyquest and escaping with just that little bit of health because he is that Ezreal in these situations. Really felt like he was warming up in this game to be a menace in game 3.
And unfortunately, yeah, he was a menace in that game 3. The full engage comp out of Flyquest, and Viper says, I got this little R button on the Xayah to basically counteract all of your champions, but he was so confident early on, turning around 2v3s. This Xayah had like a 2k gold lead single-handedly, and Masu wasn't even playing poorly or anything. It was just the way the state of the game was going, and this Xayah getting so far ahead. Again, I was ready for this to be a steamroll, and it still kind of was, but Flyquest find avenues just to give you a little bit of hope until Peanut decides to land a 3-man Skarner ulti and really snuff out the flame that was the LCS in this series.
It was starting to look a little bit like game 1 in the sense that Flyquest was able to hang on, hold out enough, build enough on their side that there was a way, a path that you can envision that they're going to be competitive. There will be a chance that you will get one of these coin flip type of fights that is going to decide this series was the way it felt it was going to lay out. The suppress comes through. The Skarner ultimate lands on the 3 valuable people in the top side, including, of course, Masu, which people are going to be going on to him about the flash button type of situation. And I think really with the performance and what we got from Masu in this one, the last thing that we need to be debating and talking about is this holding on to the flash button in this one situation. It's unfortunate. These type of things happen. And from that point on, the back is broken from Flyquest, and it is the base that is left to be destroyed.
I mean, the truth is, okay, Masu flashes there, survives. He probably gets an auto attack, a Q, maybe a W, and then he's going to be dead because the rest of his team is gone. I think the bigger thing is them all walking into the Skarner ult. I feel like maybe they thought they were going to be able to blow him up while he was CC'd before he was able to do anything. He's on the miasma, harder to see the Skarner ulti. I don't know, I'm trying to give them excuses, but the reality is, great ulti out of Peanut and a fantastic game out of Viper in that third match. And I mean, that's why he's one of the best AD carries in the world. But an incredibly competitive 3-game set. I know it's tough that Flyquest isn't able to get it done, but I think still you're feeling good about the LCS being competitive like this. I think most people were just expecting a 2-0.
This is a Unfortunate, but it is a morale win for the LCS. You got to take certain type of positives out of this type of one, and if you want to take that complete hard line that win is all it takes, and that's the only thing that you're going to be keeping track of, that's the way the LCK, whatever, you're going to be pretty darn miserable at that point. You're not going to be able to get anything out of it. I think there are absolutely positives that take away from this one for Flyquest, for LCS fans, and things that should lead you to feel you can kind of puff out your chest, put your shoulders back a little bit more as you head into your next match.
Listen, for positives at international events, LCS fans, we're waiting for the drippings through a cheesecloth of a strainer. Just a few of them be like, yeah, look at that, we won the team fight. So this is actually a decent sized cup to not only win a game against the top seed from the LCK, but have moments in all 3 games of the series. Before the LCS broke a few hearts, we had DK continuing their run through LPL Autumn in their matchup this year, and this time it was top eSports, and this was eerily similar to the LNG series for them because you had competitive moments, you had some solid moments for Dplus, but just a few mistakes from multiple players and straight up out team fought by top eSports. The story of this series for me was, is any team better at playing around and peeling for their AD carry than TES?
I don't think so. You'd really have to search and find some of the best teams that we have. Maybe a Gen G, but you still even talk about them and they go, well, kind of screw this guy. We're going to have one of our other options be the big.
They got all highlight reel guys. I'm going to make the play.
Exactly. So it doesn't come through. But top esports, yes, the investment, the priority, the king of the bot lane, Jackie Love. We know that one. That is the story. And he was absolutely on his throne once again in this series, making quick work out of the rest of Dplus Kia, even quicker work, I think, out of that 2v2, 1v1 down in the bottom lane against Aiming individually. Unfortunate, I think, when you talk about this one for Aiming, because he has had such a great year and really a consistent year for a player that, again, a lot of the times we talk about the ups and downs of what he's able to do, the ebbs and flow. It has been consistently good to great so far. This time around, not so much in this matchup.
Yeah, unfortunately, the lasting memory out of this one is him kind of walking too far forward on the really fed misfortune, and he's basically all of his team's damage at this point in the game, where basically gets caught out in the final team fight and is unable to do anything because he was ahead of Jackie Love in that game. This is the second game we're talking about here in that misfortune Callista head-to-head, and time in the second game, it was 369 on the Cassante finding these engages. He's maybe the guy everyone's been most critical of for top esports performance so far at the World Championship. A pair of Cassante games, but this looked more like LPL 369 today.
And I think a lot of the reason why people are like that is because they know the potential that 369 possesses. And if he is playing at that top of his potential, he is one of the elite top laners in the game that you have. And he is someone that can change the course of a series, change these games around. That is why you talk about him in that type of level. That is that expectation, that pressure that is there. Delivered on it today for the squad. Everything you could have wanted for, and then some from him individually into this matchup against King. And I think he's, he's like, get me my phone so I can text Zeus and ask him, how the heck did you lose to this guy? What is going on in this one? 369 dumpstering King in the top side.
Yeah, it was back-to-back King Jax matchups, and both times 369 coming out heavily on top, especially when you have this teaser video and Kingan's like, I see the similarities, 2024 Dplus and 2022 DRX, and different worlds formats, so maybe there's still a chance for that miracle.
It's not out yet. It is absolutely not out yet. You're not done until that final strike comes across the plate type of situation. Ugly loss, though. No doubts about it when you're looking at this one from Dplus Kia, because you have a bunch of these questions now where you're starting to bring in the question of, well, yes, Aiming does provide good gameplay, all these type of things, but, well, there's this one slip up here at this event against Jackie Love, and overall not enough to be that difference maker. And then you go to that, top side, and that's even excusing, I think we can excuse Moham's play, because that is there's some rough support play going on throughout this event, and today really as well to go through it. But you go to that top side, and Kingen has been an issue. He has been an area that can be exposed. So it doesn't matter as much as we want to get excited about, Lucid's doing pretty well at this event. Champion pool still in that realm. You go look at Showmaker and what he can do, and what what we fantasize with all the different champions that we know he can utilize in this meta and their effects. It's not going to come through when you have these other issues for Dplus right now.
And this is the first Yone loss for Eastern team, I think. I think all the other ones have been either an EU or LCS squad dropping games on the Yone so far. But yeah, aside from like a 20 CS lead on the Oriana Aurora matchup in game 1, kind of a quiet series overall from Showmaker. Now we move ahead, though. Next up for the squads that match up today, let's look at winner side first. Obviously, Top eSports going into the quarterfinals. TN's first time in EU knockout round since winning in 2019. But I think TES was a team that people were on the downward trend heading into this World Championship. I think after this series, we're creeping them closer to that top 3 level at this event.
Yeah, this is absolutely one of the things where it should not be a surprise to see Top eSports into this type of situation. I think we could understand a lot of people maybe hedging their bets on a continuing slide, or a repeat of the performances that saw them ousted from the LPL playoffs type of situation once we got into some of these international matchups that you could have. But they've been able to shine through. It has been good from this team. I think that you look at what you've gotten from Jackie Love and you're happy. That is the expectation. 369 delivering in this series. And then, of course, Cream in the mid lane, I think, has been more stable than a lot of people thought he would be, and what he's been able to provide. The meta has lined up for him. Tian back in EU for Worlds. Yes, this is the Top eSports that is going to be one of these top options to consider left at the event.
Yeah, and it felt like 369 was kind of that final check mark to be really terrified of this squad. And now it's just time for him to pick some non-tank, non-Cassante champions for you to be really terrified of them. The Hanwha Life side of things, obviously the other winners today, they've been right up there with Gen G and BLG pretty much the whole tournament for favorites. But did they get knocked down a little peg for struggling a little bit against Flyquest?
I think so. I think there absolutely is a level of shakiness that you have now seen from this Hanwha Life roster, where they can be pushed, they can be tested. It can be a situation of, well, yeah, you can do all this, and that, and wazoo bazoo in the early game. It doesn't matter, because we've got this late game, and we can keep things in that realm to beat these type of things. And if Flyquest can do it, surely a squad like Gen G, BLG, T1, G2, all these other teams that are in this zone and are wanting to, take a piece of the prize, are looking at they've got an angle against you. They've got a little bit of a game plan to change things up, to bring this to maybe more than an even series than it looks like when it is on paper out there on the Rift.
Yeah, it's tricky with them because even within a game so far at Worlds, this series and the Gen G one, you have them doing incredible wombo combos that no other team is capable of, and then there's some sloppy getting caught out, taking ill-advised team fights like we saw today at times against Flyquest. So I'd still be terrified if I'm drawing them in quarterfinals, but maybe we're one step back after this Flyquest series. For the losers from today, now head into that 2-2 final life of the tournament, do or die best ofs that they're going to be advancing to. We were kind of trending in this way, but especially after today, you got to be feeling better about Flyquest than Dplus Kia, right?
Yes, I think that you have to, regardless of any prior, biases or whatever for this one. You got to be looking at how they played, what the competition was, and how they were able to push it. No question, it's Flyquest is in that better situation heading into their next matchup at that 2-2 type of zone. This is what you want if you're talking about these two teams and what you've seen for Flyquest for the LCS. Yes, there is that sting of defeat, bitterment, disappointment, or whatever, but I have to imagine that's a little bit easier to overcome, to rebounce back, to refocus, recalibrate, compared to where Dplus Kia is right now and the issues that have been exposed for them in that matchup against Top eSports.
And I mean, if you're looking at individual performers, especially for Flyquest, I think Bwipo and Inspired are cooking as advertised. That Olaf game was the most Bwipo experience you can have. Literally a 3K gold swing individually in that matchup he had throughout this day. And despite the loss, despite Viper popping off on the day, I think Masu still had a really solid series, and, the Kaisa game, that comp was kind of built around him as the main damage threat. The one thing, I think Quad looked great on the Hui. The Cassiopeia pick, it just felt like, I know it's supposed to be a counter to some of these melee champions, but it really just didn't feel like it had any impact.
You've got, the top side and the jungle of, Bwipo and Inspired. They're locked in. They're engaged. They're in this series. They are in this event. Masu, you can check him into that category as well. He's locked in. He's doing his part. He has been contributing and playing at a very high level. You go and look at these other two members of the Flyquest team, and I think you can talk about Quad in the sense like you did, where you did have a very good way performance. You were impactful. The Cassiopeia games were not impactful, because if you're landing just one, the ult on just one of them, and that one is a tanky guy or a Skarn or something like that, that ain't working. That's not enough value from this pick, from this champion, and what you need to provide to keep everything else operating afloat in those prime positions that you need it to be in. And then Busio. I think that is clearly one of the ones where over the course of this series, and I know Delight is phenomenal on the other side, massively outplayed. A big canyon between the two of them, and some negative plays, I think, coming across from Busio that did end up hurting more than they did anything right for Flyquest. That's another area where I'd like to see a turnaround into the next matchup.
But looking at those next matchups, assuming, things go as we might expect, if you avoid BLG, because that's the terrifying landmine that we're expecting to come in, and assuming T1 beats G2. These are all big assumptions, I know, but anyone else, I feel okay if I'm Flyquest matching up in that 2-2 round.
I think someone at Flyquest needs to sit down the players and take a little bit of a reflection, a little bit of a breather on what has gone on so far at the event and what you've accomplished and how you've shown up in these matches against some of these top tier, Eastern squads, and what you've been able to do there. That is a big thing for me, because I want them to check in, take that realization, self-reflection of it, and then step into their next series, realizing that, we can be the big dogs at this point. We are a big fish now. You know what? Yeah, there it is. There goes the big eel of Hanwha life swimming up river. They're gone. They're out of here. Now it's just about you and what you can do with this remaining squads. And you should have that confidence, should have that belief in your game plan and your execution of it in this next game.
Yeah, and that's really what the test of the mental is. Despite the loss, can you take the positives, take the learning experience, and continue to grow at this event? We hope to see it out of Flyquest, hope to maybe see it out of Dplus Kia as well. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, wonderful people. Thanks for the support as always, and we'll catch you on that flippity flip.